you guys, welcome back to my channel for another video. Today I am sitting down to chat with you guys, so there will not be anything to see here as far as video is concerned, just me sitting here sharing my experience and hopefully a little bit of wisdom with you guys on the topic of transitioning from elementary school or elementary ages rather into middle school ages. A lot of you guys have requested that I make a video on what that has been like in my experience and kind of what the biggest differences are when it comes to homeschooling, at least in our home. And so that is what I am here to share with you today, is just a little bit of an overview on that type of transition as, and this is huge, my last child has just moved on from the elementary ages and is now in middle school, her very first year of middle school, which is absolutely mind-blowing. So I no longer am homeschooling any elementary aged students. And so I've gone through this transition now 4 times. And so that makes me an expert. No, it does not make me an expert at all, but I can share with you what my overarching themes have been as far as what stayed consistent through that transitional period with all 4 of my kids. So I think it goes without saying that no home is the same and no homeschool is the same, and so your experience in this area may vary from mine. However, I'm gonna give you guys my generalities, things that I have noticed that have been true for my children across the board. So boys, girls, personalities, learning styles, like all the differences, I've got quite a mixed bag. And so the things that I'm gonna share with you in this video on what that transition has been like in our home, I'm only sharing the things that have been consistent with all 4 kids. So that way I'm not just giving like, you know, an isolated situation with one child that it looked like this. But I remember being an elementary aged homeschooling mom, thinking about middle school ahead of the time and really kind of getting overwhelmed by the thought of it. Just the fact that we were moving on from elementary grades, that there was like high school preparation on the horizon. And I just remember feeling very scared, really kind of doubtful about certain things, and just really wanting to make sure I was doing a job well done. And I really remember those feelings, and I remember them probably really well because they were the same feelings that I had when my children were moving from middle school to high school ages, but turned up a dial, if that makes sense. So that's the first thing I want to share with you. If you're a homeschooling mom and you're experiencing these feelings of just not even self-doubt, but just kind of like wondering, or a little bit of fear of the unknown, or maybe sadness at what you're leaving behind and thinking you're not going to be carrying into the next school year with you, whatever your feelings are, just brace yourself, because that probably will not be the last time that you feel those things. I felt them as we've left elementary ages behind and moved into middle school, and then I really feel them leaving middle school behind and going into high school. And I just think that is a part of the journey of homeschooling. That is a part of motherhood. That is a part of leaving behind seasons and certain things that you did that you're no longer doing for whatever reason. And it's just, it can be this odd mixture of emotions of excitement for the future and excitement for your child, and so wonderful and such a blessing to see them growing up and learning new things, but also simultaneously wishing you could go back and do all of those years over again, maybe omitting the really tough days. So I just want to tell you right out of the gate, if you're feeling that way, that is normal. As far as what the biggest differences have been in my homeschool, in my home with my children, as we've transitioned from elementary age to middle school ages, is really not much changes. I just want to say that. Not much changes. But there are some things that you do start to kind of lean into in the middle school ages for preparation for the high school ages. One of those things is by the time your child is leaving elementary ages behind, they really should be fairly independent when it comes to their independent subjects. For example, I really start to lay that foundation basically as early as possible in elementary school, where I'll get my kids started on something and then I expect them to complete whatever that amount is or whatever that writing is or that reading or whatever. I'll get them going, explain it, make sure they're good, and then it's like, okay, now complete it. And that foundation really is critical as you move into middle school or middle grades. I'm gonna keep saying middle school, but really it's homeschool. Nothing changes except the coursework, like the course books change. Spoiler, there's the whole video. I could just end it now. But one of the things is your kids should be working more independently as they enter into those middle school ages, because in the high school ages, they're pretty much on their own as far as doing their work, keeping up with it, turning things in, like making, you're there and you help and you assist and you explain and you teach in whatever capacity you want to do in your home. But as far as like sitting down side by side and holding their hand through an assignment, those days really start to dwindle as you get into middle school. So that is one big transition, is there is much more independent working time in middle school than there is in elementary school. But that elementary foundation is what allows for your child to really flourish in middle school. Another thing that I would mention here that I feel is worthy of mentioning is as you transition out of elementary and into middle school ages, you really want to make sure your child has a strong foundation in the most critical areas. Number one, their biblical worldview. Number two, they have a strong foundation in math. Number three, they have a strong foundation in reading. And number four, they have a strong foundation in writing. Now, I'm not saying they should be like, be on their grade level or wherever your child is, because all kids are not the same. But what I am saying is that when you're moving into middle school, the foundation has been laid. And so we want to make sure that that foundation doesn't have any cracks in it, because middle school is when you start adding bricks into the building, and without that cornerstone, the building will crumble. So if your child does not have a strong foundation, notice I'm not saying is capable of doing X, Y, or Z when it comes to a math problem, no, but just a solid foundation in those very important areas, I think middle school will expose that, and I've experienced it, and then it's very discouraging and you kind of have to reverse until you find the crack in the foundation, so to speak, and you can fill it in. So leaving elementary and moving into middle is really important to have those solid foundations laid. Another thing that I've experienced across the board as we've transitioned from elementary to middle school ages is the onset of hormones and the element that component brings to the homeschooling journey. I'll just say you need to have grace and patience, and you need to have understanding, but also your child has to learn how to properly act in their body when they don't quite feel right. And so there's a lot of self-control talk, and there's a lot of grace, and there's a lot of, but you still need to get that done, and we can't, just skip everything because you're feeling sad today kind of conversations. So I think it's a huge time of growth in your child's life. And you just need to go into it knowing that that can affect your homeschooling days, because obviously your child is affected and then you're affected. And so just grace and patience and love, but also, setting the tone and expectation that you can't just give up on the day because you're feeling emotional. Like, none of us can do that. So that is something that I think is worthy of mentioning in this video. And I will sum it up here, guys, with just saying, like I already said in my little spoiler, that there really is not much that changes when you move from elementary grades into middle grades, other than the fact that I would say safely everyone's course work gets a little bit longer. The books change, the levels change, but the things that you love and enjoy about homeschooling your children should always remain a priority in your home. If you love doing morning basket, don't think that you have to get rid of that just because your child is moving into middle school. You might need to adapt it, you might need to adjust it, you might need to taper it back to be mindful of time and, understand that their math lessons are a little more complicated, so they're going to take a little bit more time in the day. That is all very true. But you don't have to let go of everything you love just because you're homeschooling an older child. And that is something that I wish someone would have told me when I was struggling with a lot of these emotions, because it really comforted me to feel like, okay, we can still start our days the same way. We can still do Bible time. We can still have these really wonderful, engaging conversations that are just like the heart of why I homeschool. And we can still do that in middle and high school. It's not something I have to, just leave all behind. And basically homeschool in my mind in elementary was going from all the fun projects and all the fun activities to being like just boring coursework. Like, I did not want that, and it doesn't have to look like that. I will tell you though, yes, it does take longer. Maybe I need to mention that in this video. It does take longer, so allow yourself a little bit more time. Especially as you get into upper middle and toward high school. But really, the transition from elementary to middle is a pretty seamless one, and it's not one that really feels all that different to me. I definitely feel that the jump from 8th grade into high school was a more substantial change in at least my experience, and so enjoy having those middle school aged kids. It's like this odd combination of them still being so sweet and so young, but also kind of being in an adult body and trying to figure that all out. And it's a lot some days, but that would be my wisdom, my advice, and my encouragement on transitioning from elementary to middle school and homeschooling. Do not think for 1 minute that you cannot homeschool because your child is going into middle school. I would argue that middle school is probably the most important time period to homeschool your child, even over high school. And there's a reason why I say that, and maybe I will make another video on that. But you are equipped, you can do it. God has called you to it. He will lead you through it. He will carry you through it. His grace and His mercy will be over you, and you are the best person for the job. So don't throw in the towel when you get to middle school just because you hear the word pre-algebra. There are resources, there are people like me who are willing to share that information. You can do it. You will be blessed. Your child will be blessed. So do not fret, moms. The transition from elementary to middle is not all that different. Some minor time changes, some important things that you really want to kind of have laid out before you get there, but it's a wonderful journey. It's a part of the homeschooling journey, and it's a critical time in your child's life. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was an encouragement to you. Let me know if you have any questions down below. And if you have any video requests, feel free to always leave those in the comments, and I will see you guys again soon.